कले
ଆଜ୍ଞା
करिवो
ଆଜ୍ଞା
आज ब्लॉक 3 हैला ब्लॉक
ଆଜ୍ଞା
3 रे यूनिट 9 अछि सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन एंड स्पेस सेटा
ଆଜ୍ଞା
मु पढौ छी ना
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ସେଇଥିରେ ଆମର ଅଛି प्रथम ଆମେ पढिबो इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन एंड सोशियो स्पेशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन केमती हला industrialization and social spatial transformation, then urbanization and spatial dynamics, gentrifications and neighborhood changes, tomorrow dynamic of transformations and displacement. तापरे तार social and spatial consequences of gentrification, then spatial dimensions of identity, conflict, contestations and representation. Saita then reclaiming public space by non-dominant group. जेमती कि तमरो public space रे तमरो challenges to access of and participation, reclaiming the public space towards equitable and inclusive social environment. एटा आमे पढ़िबो social transformation and space रे. Social transformation माने कोण? Social transformation माने गोटे significant societal changes गोटे society रे गोटे significant changes होइथबो जहार impact spatial configurations and the ways space are used, perceived and constructed. ताकू हमें social transformation कहू एटा कौन की एटा it is essential for understanding the complex interplay between societal changes and spatial dynamic. Pre-industrial society रे कौन था pre-industrial society रे spatial organization was primarily dictated by agrarian relation. Agriculture samaro jitla pre-industrial societies re so most of the person populations are engaged in agrarian society thila setole. These societies were characterized by their connection to natural landscape and agriculture productions which largely govern the social and spatial order. The onset of industrialization in the late 18th and 19th centuries marked a significant transformation. 18th 19th century ଆମର ଗୋଟେ significant transformation ହେଲା society ରେ ଯୋଉଥିରୁ କି cities emerged ହେଲେ industrial hubs ହେଲେ with factories then transportations networks and worker housing becoming central to the urban landscape. तो एटा को आमे कहू सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है जेमती कि how urbanizations mediate the relationship between the social structures, human agencies, turning urban space into arenas where social norms thibo, economic activities thibo, political powers thibo, they all are negotiated. Industrial and socio spatial transformation कौन इंडस्ट्रियल और सोशियो स्पेशल रा ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन इंडस्ट्रियल हमर केतो स्टार्ट हेतला इंडस्ट्रियल हमर स्टार्ट हेतला बिगिनिंग इन द लेट 18th century. It was marked by the industrial revolution in Great Britain and प्रथम स्टार्ट हेतला ग्रेट ब्रिटेन रे तापर subsequently it spread to other part of the world. This era of rapid technological advancement and economic change brought about significant shift in the way people lived, worked, and interacted with their environment. Industrialization referred to the process, कौन process by which an economy was economy ଆମର ଯୋଉଠି କି transforms होथो from primarily agricultural to one based on the manufacturing of goods. These shift involve the large scale reorganizations of the productions capacity of an economy based on the steam engines, power looms, mechanized spinning with drastically increased production capacity and efficiency. These advancements led to the establishment of factories and mass production of goods जोठी कि ଆମର economic activity center थिबो around the wages of labors. ସେଇ mechanized production of goods ଗୁଡା କଣ କରେ? It is essentially for profit, which in turn stimulates economic growth, a rise in average income, improved living standard, and urbanization. But these processes also create distinct social classes. Social classes है Maneki, who owned the means of production, and the working class who survived on their labor. This new class structure often led to social stratification and class consequences among workers, promoting movement and ideologies such as socialism and communism. Rural population gone away. Rural population migrated to urban area in search of jobs, resulting in increase of urbanization. These induced migration alter the spatial organization of the society and create new social structure at the place of out of migration, that is rural area, and also at the place of in migration, that is urban area. There is also a profound impact of industrialization re, concord impact of industrialization re, on the environment as the shift to mechanized production and mass manufacturing led to increased resource consumptions and pollution, significantly altering and disturbing the natural environment. However, industrialization also spurred innovation in transportation, finance, and communication, laying the groundwork for modern economic system. Industrialization कौन करे? Industrialization induced a distinct spatial pattern of territorial production, जोटि कि तमर clustering industrial activities in specific territories, which lead to concentrated your economic growth and development. These complexes often benefit from shared infrastructure, labor pools, and resources. For example, include the Ruhr Valley in Germany. Hala, Ruhr Valley in Germany and the Great Lake region in the US, where industries benefit. Ame kon janchu, Ruhr Valley is famous industrial region in the Germany, and Great Lake region is industrial region in the US, where the industries benefit from shared infrastructure. Labor ହେଇଗଲା ତମର resource availability of resources and availability of the cheap labor, then it will easily to fostering the regional economic growth. ତାଙ୍କର economic growth ରେ ସେଟା easily ମାନେ develop କରି ଯିବ. Then industrial activities generate a multiplier effect where initial investment lead to increased economic activities and join job creations କରିବ, then stimulating further growth. For instance, the growth of automobile industry in Detroit. In world, Detroit is the famous for the automobile industry, which created a demand for steel, rubber, and other material, spurring the development of the related industries. Industrialization, while driving the economic growth and development, it can also create and exacerbate regional imbalance. The concentrations of industrial activities, then in certain areas, it leads to uneven development. The phenomena highlight the complex of relationship between the natural resources region and industrial region. For example, the Chota Nagpur Plateau and the neighboring region encompassing the Jharkhand, West Bengal, and Odisha, they are rich in mineral resources. Okay, these areas, despite their resources wealth, often face high level of poverty and underdevelopment. Why? Because they are mineral wealth state like Jharkhand face significant challenges related to poverty and literacy. As of 2023 data, Jharkhand poverty rate stands at approximately 42.16%, which exceeding the national average of 25.7%. In terms of literacy, Jharkhand rate with significant rural urban disparities is around 66.41% below the national average of 75.4%. This figure This figure highlight the complex relationship between resource abundance and socioeconomic development in this region. We can say that industrialization drives economic development, but may not always bring about expected benefits in its locations and can also pre perpetuate height disparities. These are the industrialization and socio-spatial transformation केमती ହେଲା. The next one is your what is urbanization and spatial dynamics. Urbanization and spatial dynamics कौन? As economics shift from agrarian base to industrial ହେଲା ଆଗରୁ ଆମର agrarian ଥିଲା ତାକୁ ତ ସେଇଟାରୁ change ହେଇକି ଆମର ଏବେ ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ industrial ହେଇଗଲାଣି then it significant shift occur that drive people toward urban center ଠିକ ଅଛି ଯଦି industrialization ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ explore ହେଲା ତ people shift କଲେ urbanization toward move to urbanization center this industrialization sets the stage for urbanization so by creating economic opportunities, developing infrastructures, and attracting investments, all of which contributing to create a plethora of job opportunities that attracts rural population to cities. These migrations, which population growth is the fundamental driver of growth and expansions of urban areas, the spatial aspect of transformation of economies and societies through the processes of industrialization paves the way for urbanization, which again plays a critical role in shaping social and spatial justice. The dynamics of accessibility, availability, and affordability of economic opportunities, capabilities, infrastructures, and investment play crucial role in shaping these socio-spatial differences within urban areas. These factors influence how cities grow and develop, often leading to significant disparities between different urban neighborhood area with a high concentration of job opportunities tend to attract more workforce. This course of migrations to urban area can transform social relations by introducing diverse cultural and socio-economic groups into urban fabric, which can lead to cultural enrichment and also social tension. Rapid urban growth of populations require extensive planning and resources to ensure equitable access to housing, education, and healthcare. For example, in Mumbai, rural to urban migration has created a vibrant multicultural city, but also lead to the growth of slums and significant socio-economic divides. The concentrations of opportunities and amenities result in growth of well-developed urban core, often at the expense of peripheral areas, which might lack similar economic opportunities. These leads to the high demand for better service and amenities in the core area, which in turn leads to a high demand for housing near these economic hubs. This phenomena can lead to socio-economic segregations where affluent resident cluster in well-developed neighborhoods while lower income groups are pushed to the urban fringes or neglected inner city areas. This can be understood with the example of a few cities in India. Okay, first, for example, in Mumbai, the financial capital of India. Okay, it exemplifies the impact of economic hub on housing demands and socioeconomic segregations. The presence of the Bombay Stock Exchange, numerous multinational corporations, and the Bollywood film industry has made South Mumbai a highly sought after area. Consequently, property price in area like Nariman Point, Kolba, Malabar Hills are prohibitively high for low income populations group. This has led to the proliferations of informal settlement and slum in the outskirts, such as Dharavi, where lower income group reside in overcrowded and substandard living conditions. Similarly, Bangalore, known as the Silicon Valley of India, it has experienced significant urban growth due to the IT boom. Areas such as Whitefield and Electronic City have seen a surge in property price due to the concentrations of tech park and IT companies. This has resulted in socio-economic segregations with affluent IT professionals living in well-developed well-developed gated communities while lower income workers are relegated to peripheral areas with inadequate infrastructure and services. So another example is in Delhi, the development of infrastructures, particularly in the Delhi metro, has significantly influenced urban growth and property price. Areas well connected by the metro, such as South Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, Faridabad, have witnessed a rise in real estate values, attracting affluent residents and business. In contrast, regions with poor connectivity and infrastructure, such as part of East Delhi, remain underdeveloped and less attractive to investors, leading to the spatial disparities in urban development. Social relations कौन social relation ହେଲା ଯେତେବେଳେ urbanization ମାନେ foster it can be foster both integrations ବି କରିପାରିବ ଆଉ segregations ବି କରିପାରିବ both. Diverse urban population may lead to greater social interaction and cultural exchange, but also to the social fragmentation if different groups are partially segregated. Migration to urban area and the influence of dominant languages such as Hindi and English have led to a decline in use of indigenous languages. Production relation कौन production relation ହେଲା the organizations of economic activities and in urban areas which can create new forms of labor relations and economic dependency. Industrializations and service economics in this city in these cities often lead to the concentrations of wealth and resources, wealth and resources, resources that impacting the social equity, which where the growth of urban market influences local economics and social structure, often marginalizing traditional practices and small scale local businesses. Hello. The shift from traditional agricultural economies to industrial and service-based urban economies often leads to the disparity in wealth distribution and job opportunities. Aku kuajaye production relations. Then what is urban morphology? Urban morphology called the study of the physical form of city is known as urban morphology. ଯୋଉଥିରେ ଆମେ ପଢିବୁ ତାଙ୍କର it exhibit the spatial and social segmentation where different social groups are concentrated in distinct areas leading to unequal access to resources and services. For example, healthcare sector, sanitation, this inequitable distribution exacerbates spatial inequalities and liquid opportunities for marginalized communities. The informal settlement often lack basic service, while wealthier neighborhoods of the city enjoy better infrastructure and amenities. For instance, in metropolitan cities, gated communities often separate affluent residents from lower income groups, leading to social isolation and lack of interaction between different socioeconomic classes. This is known as urban morphology. Urban morphology is basically the study of the physical form of city which exhibit this social segmentation, spatial, where different social groups are concentrated in distinct area. The next one is your gentrification and neighborhood change. Dynamics of transformation and displacement. Gentrification, gentrification and neighborhood changes. According to Neil Smith in 1982, he defined that gentrification as a process involving the rehabilitation of working class and derelict housing and the consequent transformation of an area into a middle class neighborhood. Samiti Sharon Jukin 1987 ने describe कले gentrification है the influx of capital and middle class people into poor neighborhood, resulting in the displacement of the working class resident. Uh, for example, in Delhi, for example, in Delhi, the development of areas such as South Delhi and the rise of new neighborhoods like Saket, Basantunj illustrate how urbanizations and subsequent investment can transform areas that were once considered peripheral. Okay, these areas have seen significant infrastructural development, including the construction of high quality residential complexes, shopping mall, business center. The expansions of the Delhi metro has further enhanced connectivity, making this area more accessible and attractive to higher income individuals and businesses. As a result, property values in this area have skyrocketed, pushing out lower income residents and small business that cannot afford the rising cost. This has led to a socio-economic transformation where affluent residents and high-end commercial establishments dominant, contributing to the gentrifications of this neighborhood. Another example we can say that of Noida, originally planned as a industrial township, but it has undergone a similar transformations over the past few decades. We can say that Noida has shifted from an industrial hub to a major residential and commercial center. The establishment of IT park, luxury residential project, and extensive retail complexes have made Noida as an attractive destination for higher income individual and real estate developer. Infrastructure developments such as the Noida Greater Noida Expressway and the upcoming Noida International Airport have further boosted its attractions and land value. Consequently, Lower income residents who initially lived in these areas are often displaced or marginalized, moving to less developed and more affordable parts of the region, thereby contributing to the socio-economic segregations. The gentrification seen in both Delhi and Noida is a direct result of the urbanization processes that bring in substantial investment, improve infrastructures, and make these areas more desirable for higher income groups. While these changes can lead to urban renewal and economic growth, they also pose significant challenges in terms of social equity and displacement of the long term and lower income residents. ଆ ଭିତରେ ଅଛି ତମର gentrifications ଭିତରେ social and spatial and social consequences of gentrification. Spatial and social consequences of gentrifications ର first point ଆସିବ ତମର increase in land value and housing affordability. ଯେମିତି the process of gentrification is marked by the rising property values and rates, which can significantly alter the socio-economic landscape of a neighborhood. Second point है तमरा cultural and social transformation of neighborhood. Cultural and social changes also accompany gentrifications as new higher income residents move into these areas. They often bring different cultural and social practices which can clash with the existing community's tradition and lifestyle. Third point है empowerment versus displacement. While gentrifications can lead to the empowerment of certain groups through improved infrastructure and amenities, it often comes at the cost of displacing existing communities. Fourth है तुम्हारा impact of gentrification on women. Women, particularly those from low income background, those from low income background heavily on their communities for child care, elder care, and emotional support. Gentrification often disrupts these networks by displacing long-term residents. Women working in local informal sectors such as domestic work, street vending, and small businesses are often displaced when neighborhood gentrify. Next है tomorrow spatial dimension of identity conflicts, contestations and representations. Conflict माने कौन? Conflict केତେବେଳେ आसे? When conflict arises when resources or opportunities are not shared equally in the society. ଯେତେବେଳେ resources or opportunity equally share ହବନି ସେତେବେଳେ conflict ଟା arise କରିବ. Then what is contestation? Contestations कौन? Contestation it occurs when different groups actively assert their right to be included and claim space, especially marginalized group fighting for their voice in decisions about their surroundings and public space. ଯେମିତିକି space as a site of conflict for asserting identity. Space become a site of conflict where different groups vie for control and representation. ହେଲା. Then space as a site of contestation for asserting identity. ତାପରେ ଅଛି site of representation and identity of ascertain. Then ଅଛି ତମର reclaiming public space by non-dominant group. Non-dominant group କଣ? For example, ଯେମିତିକି ତମର exclusive urban design often reflect the interest of the dominant, marginalizing non-dominant group. These non-dominant group often encounter significant socio-spatial barriers that limits their access to and participation in public space and also excluded from the decision making and denied equitable access are left to contest and reclaim their right to this space. कौन कौन challenges ଅଛି ତମର access and participation in public space? What are the challenges to access and participation in public space? The first, foremost important characteristics of public space is their accessibility, as public space should be accessible to all the members of the community, regardless of their social status, ethnicity, economic background, disability, or gender. Another important characteristic is inclusivity. They must be designed to be open, inclusive, and multifunctional, and must be focused to serve various social, cultural, and recreational needs. They should accommodate diverse groups and activities, promoting social interactions among different demographics. Typically, these spaces are owned or managed by public entities or through communities stewardship. According to a survey by the National Center for Transgender Equality in 2016, 59% of the transgender individuals reported difficulty finding gender neutral restrooms. Hmm. According to Lefebvre, in 1991, he realized that socioeconomic and political factors are responsible for the systematic exclusion of non-dominant group from public space. Dalits often face social and spatial exclusion due to caste-based discrimination. This include being barred from accessing certain public space or facing discrimination within this space. The Indian Institution of Public Administration in 2020 reported that 55% of the public space in certain regions are segregated along caste line. Public space frequently experience cultural shift due to gentrification, which can result in the exclusion of non-dominant group who cultural and economic practice are displaced. This transformation alters the social identity and cultural practices of the area, moving away from the symbolic significance held by original residents. Then reclaiming the public space towards equitable and inclusive social environment. First one is your the processes of reclaiming space involve various strategies. They are number one, implementing inclusive design that enhance safety, such as improved lighting to make public space more welcoming. Second, enhancing community engagement by incorporating diverse input in the design and management of public space to ensure they meet the need of all users. Third one is your empowering the marginalized group to advocate for their needs and participate in planning processes to address social spatial exclusion. Third, hella promoting the idea that all residents have a right to participate in shaping public space to support more equitable outcome. Fifth one is you're implementing a democratic management practices that involve diverse community member in decision making to ensure fair access, then embracing the use of public space for diverse form of expression and activism to foster inclusivity and challenge exclusivity. participation practices, then you're advocating for public ownership and management of space to ensure how they serve the entire community rather than private interest. Then next is your unit 10. Unit 10 is your mobility and change. In there, geographies of mobility, mobility politics, then spatial mobility is there, meaning types and factors, then conflict, social, what is social mobility and social conflict. Geographies of mobility, what is geographies of mobility? According to Oxford Dictionary, mobility is the ability to move easily from one place, social class, or job to another. It refers to any movement or change associated with people and society is known as mobility. Human mobility is diverse and can occur on various spatial, temporal, societal scales. The Dictionary of Human Geography in 2009, there are two kinds of mobilities. They are commonly found in geographical practices. One is your spatial mobility, that is associated with the movement of people, ideas, etc. across the territory. Another one is your social mobility. Social mobilities means it associated with the change in social status of an individual and group. Mobility and movement कौन? Mobility and movement. Mobility and movement. Mobility is the primarily associated with any change or movement. However, there is an essential distinction between movement and mobility. Movement refers to a spatial displacement from one location to another. In the following illustration, movement changes any person position from A to B. The term movement is used to understand a change more in a positive or natural scientific sense. It typically considers measurable change like number, flow, direction, and distance between two locations, speed, time, and moving object. However, mobility is associated with capturing people and the corresponding social reality. Therefore, mobility is defined mainly as a social production. It includes ideologies, life experience, opportunities, freedom, representation, and power shaping it. Mobility is how society assigns meaning, controls, and regulates geographical and open movement. We can walk, we can talk, we can think, we can imagine, make representation and live out our lives. Mobility captures how different forces and structures largely govern individual group and regulate society. Then ହେଲା ତମର mobility and social geography କଣ? According to American geographer Carl Saucer, was interested in studying agricultural and nomadic societies. According to him, the food supply and less economic base in the given physical environment constantly drive the hunter gatherers to move. Mobility is the mean of livelihood and survival strategy for the nomads. In the advent of possibilism, French geographer Paul Vidal de Blas explained that nomad way of living as close to nature and the nature facilities offered by the geographic relation. provide opportunities for people to live in a constant movement domain. The emergence of the quantitative uh, quantitative facilities offered to the geographical regions provide opportunities for people to live in a constant movement domain. Social geographer are also interested in studying labor, spatial movement, and associated socioeconomic mobility in various contexts. The uneven development and socio-spatial relationship between the core and the peripheries of flow of materials and labor have remained an essential trait of social economic and regional geographic research. The monumental work of David Harvey, Social Justice of City, was published in the year 1973, which seeks to understand the formation in the cities under capitalist economic productions, the migrant laborers and social welfare entitlements at the destination are essential in contemporary citizenship. Right, the right to the city emerged as a worldwide concern for scholars and policy makers. Feminist social geographer see the gender-specific social and spatial mobility restrictions over time, space, women representations, and embodiment are a patriarchal social constructs. Women's spatial mobility is interpreted as freedom, rights, and empowerment in constant negotiation with power and social politics. Then next is your politics of mobility. By according to Tim Creswell in 2010, he mentioned that by a politics of mobility, I mean the social relations that involve the production and distribution of power. By a politics of mobility, I mean the ways in which mobilities are both productivity of social relation and produced by them. Social relations are, of course, complicated and diverse. They include relations between classes, genders, ethnicities, nationalities, and religious groups, as well as hot of other form of group identity. Mobility politics is mediated through ideology, patriarchy, racism, and regionalism are all certain forms of ideologies that control the mobility of women, ethnic and racial group in specific directions, and ideology has constantly changes society and mobility is driven by dominant ideologies by our time and space. Modern democracy, liberalism, socialism, globalization, and feminism are diverse ideologies that offer multitudes of individual rights and freedom and equality. Then spatial mobility kono, meaning types and factors kono. Spatial mobility, it can be defined as movement between different locations. It can be physical and virtual and associated with people, things, material and immaterial dimension. Physical spatial mobility refers to the displacement of movement of an individual, group or something over the physical geographical space. Migration, travel, daily commute and transportation are regular mobility activities occurring in absolute geographical space. Spatial mobility also occurred through virtual space due to advancement in information and communication technology. We can experience a distance tourist place on smartphones through available information and communication technology. We simultaneously consume place like experience, culture, society, information, and knowledge. Types of social mobility କଣ? କେତେଟା types ଅଛି social mobilities ର? Spatial mobility remains a fundamental concern to human geography, which primarily associated mobility as movement over space as per some system. However, a system approach appears more mechanism to understand human natures. It will on human spatial mobility. According to Zelensky in 1971, human spatial mobility increases with societal and economic development. It varies with different geography, nation, state, and society. The researcher also reduced spatial mobility to crude human movement like migration. However, human mobility can be from different origin, form, processes, and scale. It can range from the local, commute, national to global. Travel, tourism, migration, politically displacement, environmental refugee, and national to global. Many scholars have attempted to categorize human spatial mobility based on different criteria. The researchers mainly presented four types of spatial mobility. First one is your residential, second one is your migration, third one is your travel, fourth one is your daily mobility. First, jota residential mobility, it refers to the changes in residence location or quality, affordability, social well-being, life cycle, and associated parameters. Second one is your migration. Migration includes inter-regional, international migrations, emigrations, and immigrations. Then third one is your travel include activities like tourism, leisure, and business travel. Fourth one is your daily commuters. Daily mobility usually including daily computing, shopping, and virtual mobility. Then your what are the factors of mobility? You know that there are two factors which is important. One is push factor, another one is pull factor. Push factors means there are spatial mobility is generated by government by some push or triggering factors. The spatial mobility of all sort of a human necessity. Necessity. For example, people move for income opportunities, shelter, safety, ideology, knowledge, and other economic social reasons. For example, poverty is one of the primary reasons why rural people in India migrate to large cities like Mumbai, New Delhi, and Kolkata. Proximity con Proximity allows people experience human interaction in this social sphere during mobility. Proximity refers to social integration within and outside of the group. Then ତମର ହେଲା locomotions. Locomotions may include physical, that is bodily and social ability to move over space. Locomotions like walking, driving, traveling in train, and flying in aeroplanes are simultaneously physical ability, mobility options, and economic access. Locomotion varies individual. It depends on curiosity and psychological nature. Then ହେଲା curiosity. Curiosity called curiosity is the widely expressed as the desire to know unknown. For psychologists, curiosity is basic human and biological instinct, just like hunger. Human interest can be diverse and has social and individual psychological origin. People move for explorations and information experience, knowledge and exposure. People often change not the person and social lives by tackled into convention. Then ଆସିଲା ତମର pull factor. ସେଇଟା ଏଗୁଡା ସବୁ ଥିଲା ତମର push factor ରେ proximity, locomotions, curiosity, then your pull factor. Pull factor ରେ spatial mobility is governed by some attractions and motivation, usually called pull factor. The pull factor can be diverse from social, cultural, economic, and political reason. Every year, thousands of educated, qualified youth move outside of India for better social and economic opportunities. So there are mobility consumptions and social production. Spatially, mobility means consumption and social production, moving to a city with a consumption culture, living in certain residential area, paying rent for accommodations, buying air ticket, traveling to a tourist place, and visiting shopping malls and restaurants are all certain forms of economic and social consumption. And economic consumption, individual are shaped by society. The next one is your spatial mobility and social conflict. Spatial mobility and social conflict कौन हबो? The primary source of ethnic and social conflict, identity, movement, and regionalism in different part of the world. Spatial mobility, especially the migration of a population with the various cultural, social, and economic traits, has a tremendous social political significance at the destination. These are called son of soils conflict of our working acronyms, which arise from the fundamental antagonism of the local against the residents of recent immigrants or outsiders. India encountered diverse social movement, rising netism, and soil conflict. In the past 75 years of independence, the recognition, reorganization of federal state in India was done on a linguistic basis. However, federal states also induced the great social and regional diversity in language, culture, and ethnicity. The migration of other dominant communities has changed the demographic structure and social fabric of the ethnic and local communities. It lead to the diverse kind of anti-migrant agitations in India. The state like Assam, Maharashtra, Chota Nagpur region of Bihar, now Jharkhand, Telangana, previously the part of the Andhra Pradesh and northern parts of the West Bengal experienced such movements. Assam, for example, Assam was incorporated with British India relatively late in the 1840s. The Britishers brought educated Bengali Hindus from Calcutta as administrator in this state. The state gradually became a land of the opportunities for the different migrant populations through the 19th century. The middle class professional like teachers, doctor, lawyer, and tea garden manager all were Bengali Hindu in Assam. The Bengali language was even introduced as a medium of formal language education. Overall, the local felt Bengali cultural supremacy over the Aham population over the past 100 years of the British Raj. The Muslim Bengalis also migrated in a large number and converted a vast tract of forested land into an agricultural field. The tribal were settled in expanding tea plantations. The Marwaris and other North Indian communities controlled the state trade and commerce. After India's partition, the inflow of Bengali migrations further increased from then East Pakistan. The number of Bengalis became so large that Assami could genuinely panic that the migrant population might numerically and culturally subordinate them. After independence, political articulations of indigenous people took a nativist turn, declaring Assami as the official language in the state. It was essential to regain lost socio-political dominance and new economic opportunities such as government jobs for the local people in the Assam considered it linguistic supremacy from the 1970s onward. Assam witnessed political mobilization and violent anti-Bengali Hindu movement across the entire state. ଏଇଟା ଥିଲା spatial mobility and social conflict. Next ହେଲା ତମର Unit 11 power structure and space. ଆଉ ଦିଟା ୟୁନିଟ୍ ରହିଲା Unit 11 and 12. 2 ମିନିଟ୍ ଟିକେ ବ୍ରେକ୍ ନଉଛି ତାପରେ ମୁଁ ଆସୁଛି ହେଲା କମ୍ ବ୍ୟାକ୍ କରୁଛି ଶ୍ରିୟା are you there? ଶ୍ରିୟା
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ଅଛ ତ?
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ହଁ ମୁଁ 2 ମିନିଟ୍ ଟିକେ ପାଣି ପିଇକି ଟିକେ ଆସୁଛି ହେଲା 2
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ମିନିଟ୍ସ
ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ବ୍ରେକ୍ ନଉଛି ତାପରେ ମୁଁ ପୁଣି ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ କରିବି Unit 11 ଟା ହେଲା Chapter 11 ରେ ତମର ଅଛି power structure and space. ଆଦେହରେ ଆମେ ପଢିବା what do you mean by power structure? Power structure ମାନେ କଣ ଆମେ ଆଗ previous last class ରେ ଆମେ ଟିକେ ପଢିଥିଲୁ power structure. Power structure simply means the way power is organized, shared, and executed. It refers to various social, economic, and political structures of society and the structures of domination that determine the interrelationship and control of diverse resources. It emanates from both social structure and other social structure of domination. Power is essentially a relational concept. It cannot exist alone without any other alternate individual or group. According to Karl Marx, human society is primarily a reflection of class relations. Society has been divided into two classes, that is, one who own capital and resources and thus rule the society, and other is the working class, that is one who does not own capital, only own human labor and is being ruled by the former in capitalist system. Social power is the ability or capacity to control and transform the outcome of any social phenomena. Power structures refers to the way of power is organized in a society. It refers to different social, economic, and political structures. You may also find the structure of domination. These structures mostly determine the societal interrelationship and control of diverse resources, including human labor, knowledge, societal recognitions, and various natural resources. And power can be exercised in diverse way. It can be used as an ideology, as or as an exercise of domination through violence and rituals means. Power is everywhere in everyday life. We encounter different types of control, some as discipline, some in the form of ideology, other as force, means police, law, military, or as control of resources, resources, money, social relations, power form dominations like patriarchy, gender relationship, discriminations, violence, social exclusion, caste group against marginalized people, or simply ideological knowledge like your societal belief practice. Power is widely reflected through diverse spatial practices. Power and space. What is the relationship between power and space? Power तो हमने जानिलु कौन. What do you mean by space? Space is one of the most critical concept in social geographical inquiry. Geographers are concerned with studying various kind of space and their societal implications while looking at the diverse power and structures of domination. Space is produced through continuous human interactions in society under diverse factor, agency, and power relation. When one things geographical, one see that power as contingent on space. It is a space where the various modalities of power are being exercised. Likewise, power is also shaped through spatial manifestations or its manifestations at various geographical scale from local to global. In geography, it is a hypothetical space characterized by equal and consistent properties, a geographic space that is completely homogeneous. According to Lefebvre, he argues that capitalist society produces abstract space which is characterized by the dominance of mental space over the natural and social one. A relation a relational concept where power is mediated through societal institution, interactions, and dominant rules and norms. The social geography of everyday life is not mundane root in activity, but the numerous interaction of power and position in the diverse social milieu in context. Next ହେଲା ତମର homogenization and segregation. Homogenization and segregation ମାନେ କଣ? Homogenization segregation of space produced and experienced by societies are considered essential socio-spatial processes. Spatial homogenization is the process of assimilations based on certain commonalities, traits, group behaviors. Segregation, on the other hand, means the separation or isolation based on specific life differences, usually based on the economy, class, market, race, ethnicity, and identity. Segregation and homogenization are the spatial manifestations of social, economic, and political factors and processes. These are widely interpreted as the result of how the power structure and social relationship operated in creating geographic space. Segregation and homogenization are mostly observed in each society. Societies are mostly stratified into distinct classes, caste, and race, and also by differences in occupation, gender, ethnicity, religion, or language. So each social group in any of the above shares some commonalities and interest within such categories of association. The both has been seen as innovation processes reflecting plurality and diversity. However, it does not always work as a mutual coexisting processes. Simple differences may lead to structural differentiation amounting to denial, marginalization, and exclusion of a specific group. These resources may be access to water, transportation, education, healthcare system, housing, public space for recreations, or they may create exposure to crime, pollutions, and other hazards. The engagement of understanding homogenization and segregation largely varies from different geographical context and scale. Racial segregation is one of the most common features faced by the American society. The African American or Black population is traditionally known for facing diverse forms of racial discriminations. They are also forced to live in certain area of the city to devoid of minimum civic amenities and suffer from lack of employment, poverty, and deprivation. In social geography, Harlow Rose Black Ghetto is one of the classical work that attempt to understand the apartheid among the African American population in Indian society. Segregation most commonly operates on the line of caste and tribe, religion, ethnicity, reason, and income. Many recent studies highlight that scheduled caste and scheduled tribe population are segregated in India. It means they face social inequalities with limited access to resources and opportunities. Social geographer must understand the cause and prescribe policy for inclusive development for all. Then what is development? Displacement, sorry. Displacement कौन displacement जाना चाहिए? Displacement generally refers to dislocating or displacing someone or a group from their place of residence or socio-economic position. It implies the force of movement and causes mobility of people or group. Displacement may involve direct factors such as development project, ethnic conflict, war. natural or man-made disaster, forced evictions of slums or caused by indirect factors like economic causes, such as the loss of livelihood, which force people to move from one place to another. Displacement means your ethnic conflict, climate change, and natural disasters force people to relocate to new area. In the past, many mega development projects such as the construction of large dams on rivers and the development of mines in tribal dominated areas have contributed to a large number of internally displaced people in the country. All these examples suggested that displacement concerning power and structure dominance widely varies and in context specific. However, what is expected in all types of displacement is significant human suffering and social cost experienced by the people. The effect of displacement also varies across men, women, and children. Women and children mostly face the worst suffering in all types of displacement. Social geographers analyze the socio-economic effect of displaced person and rehabilitation policies to contribute critical policy measure. In recent Syrian civil war, hundreds of thousands of people turned into refugees, and the majority of them started living in camps. Many people attempt to flee to other countries by risking their lives by crossing the sea in a tiny boats. Many died in this attempt. Human trafficking, organ trade, sex trafficking, such as illicit activities generally increase in most such cases having massive humanitarian crisis after displacement. Then next one is your resource control. Resource control in social geography it is concerned with real world social problem. To understand the territory or spatially of human well-being, it is crucial to gauge who is getting what, where and how regarding resources, access, control and distribution. The understanding of resources for analyzing power structure can be diverse. The resources can be in both material and in non-material form. Access and control over physical resources such as ownership, entitlement, and distribution of land and rights over forest, water, grazing land, etc., constitute important social contestations. The non-material resources include education, knowledge, skills, and social capital, as well as social positions, identity, and recognitions. Dominant social groups are generally control these resources in most economic and social system. Similarly, the cities like Bangalore are quickly drying up. The underground water has been exhausted to the limit, and all ponds are now getting dry during summer. The new water mafia is coming up to fill the gap between resources, demand, and supply. The poor people cannot afford to purchase water for daily needs. In some regions of Rajasthan, Haryana, and Punjab, drip irrigation has become a popular agricultural method in recent decades. Over-exploitations of groundwater gradually pushed the local water table several hundred feet below the pre-existing level. As a result, only the large farmers who had installed deep bore wells have access to this water. The marginal farmer cannot afford to set up such deep bore well. Then next is your Structures of dominance and electoral politics in India. First is your caste dominance in electoral politics. Caste-based social domination is a widely known features of electoral politics in India. Each jati represent the local level ramifications of the hierarchical caste system in India. The traditional forward caste primarily dominates at the pan-India level. The control over land was the key determining factor of social dominance in the country. The caste that owns the most land becomes in the dominant caste group in the region. Traditionally, the dominant upper caste owned land. On the other hand, the lower caste remained historically landless or marginal farmer or wage labor. Caste dominance over land also led to judge-money system or the traditional pattern-client relationship that became the basis for hierarchical dependencies in Indian society. After independence, the effort of land redistribution was attempted, but it was successful only in a few states, like in West Bengal. As a result, caste-based social domination continued for decades. Studies carried out in different parts of the country suggest that the traditional domination of land owing caste continued to be a dominant factor in the local context. Caste and capital became quaterminious in this case, where forward caste controlled maximum resources. Domination also has other manifestation. The number of voters representing each caste group is a key determining factor in electoral politics. In Uttar Pradesh, the Dalit or lower caste people represent a significant share of the vote in many constituencies. Over the decade, Dalit and Bahujan politics, which have historically emerged against upper caste domination, became crucial in electoral gains or losses for the contesting parties. Similarly, in Bihar, Yadav and Bhumihar locally dominant in their number. The caste politics historically remained absent in West Bengal. However, in the recent time, the Rajbangshi and Motua caste have become key determining factor in their respective localities. The dynamic of caste and electoral politics are even changing after the new economic policy reform in 1991. It is evident that India's traditional business class now dominates over all castes in terms of financial power and social mobility. Over the year, agriculture has no longer remained profitable even for India's traditional land-owning caste. As a result, even the conventional land-owning castes like Patel and Jats demand reservation in this scheduled list. Second ହେଲା ତମର ethnic and linguistic dominance. Ethnic linguistic dominance in India electoral politics is also seen in various regional contexts. In Darjeeling Hill, the demand for Gorkha land, the regional statehood movement for the ethnic Nepali and others, has continued for several decades. Over time, the Gorkha Land National Liberation Front, subsequently the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha, have led the ethnic political movement for separate statehood demand in the region. It is observed that the party that is able to gain support from the either the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha and support the statehood demand has succeeded in winning elections at the national level. Northeast region in India is known for its ethnic activities. It includes ethnic, cultural, and linguistic assertion, demands for self-determinations, and ethnic conflicts. In this region, several ethnic political parties, youth and student agencies have employed over the decade. This represents the local socio-economic issue faced by the local ethnic linguistic people. Third hela tamar religion, ethnicity and electoral politics. The religious divide was the reason for India's partition in 1947. Even after independence, religion remained the factor of diverse socio-political tension and a significant aspects of social spatial relationships in the country. At the national, regional, and local level, electoral politics have emerged from diverse regional religion-based party. Religion primarily emerges as a medium for political mobilizations in geographical areas which are mostly predominated by specific religion-based communities with ethnopolitical and linguistic identities. In Punjab, Shiromani Akali Dal primarily represent in the Sikh community. The All India's Majlis-e-Ittihad-ul-Muslimin successfully won the election in Hyderabad. The rise of the Bharatiya Janata Party or BJP political journey is generally based on the religion-based politics. Fourth, hela tamara gender-based dominance. Gender-based dominance, it is predominance of men in representational electoral democracy and politics has continued for decades in India, although women constitute half the population. Their representation in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and state assemblies. The data released by the Election Commissions of India suggests that women's turnout in voting and even for political contest has successively increased over the year. However, the share of the women is representative democracy is changing very slow. For example, in the first Lok Sabha in 1952, the women representation was close to only 5%. In the 16th Lok Sabha 2014 to 19, there are 61 women member of parliament. Then this number significantly increased to 78 in the 2019 Lok Sabha. However, in the present Lok Sabha 2024, the number has slipped to 74 female member out of 542 total member of the parliament. This gender gap in women's less active participation in Indian politics suggests the prevalence of the patriarchal tendency in societal institutions, electoral behavior of voters and political parties in the country. The constitutional processes of ensuring women's political representation has been taught for several years, and the much awaited bill on women's electoral representation is still pending for a year in the lower house of the Indian Parliament. Then unit 12 is your social and spatial unit. Justice, social and spatial justice. Social and spatial justice defining social and spatial justice, as we already know that resources such as wealth, opportunity and privilege are invariably distributed unequally in most of the society. In many instances, such inequalities in the distributions of scarce resources can be such that can be assails our moral and ethical standard. Spatial inequality in cities, for example, can be concentrated by comparing affluent, well-serviced areas with marginalized, underdeveloped areas such as slum area, largely consisting of overcrowded housing and limited or substandard living conditions, lacking basic amenities like water or sanitation. In other cases, inequitous distributions of the available resources is justified on grounds of special needs or on account of special privilege accorded to certain sections, such as those who suffered historical discriminations or are deprived for any reason. However, social injustice can be unacceptable if a society discriminates against certain sections based on race, ethnicity, religion, caste, or gender in the accessing resources such as housing, education, health and healthcare, employment, etc. Social justice con social justice Allah. First step to understanding the social justice in the distinctions between differences and inequality. Second, equity and equality. The former is neutral or essential, whereas the latter is circumstantial. In a society, simple differences can be turned into differential treatment with regard to distributive justice, such as the slaves who were merely different in their superficial skin color or other such attributes. So, also is the caste hierarchy in India that turns differences into unequal treatment. The gender discriminations can be another good example. The concept of equity, on the other hand, entertains inequality in two different ways. First, feature accepting inequalities to remain in these societies, such as in preferential treatment to the nobles, while second one is your striving to eliminate unjust inequalities such as extreme poverty. Most societies use redistributions and compensations as method of achieving equity and social justice. Equality envisages that everyone gets exactly the same amount. Perfect equality as distributive justice is rarely considered achievable. ଏଇଟା ଥିଲା social. Then spatial justice କ'ଣ? Spatial justice ହେଲା, in simple terms, it refers to the fair and equitable distribution of resources and opportunities across geographic space, addressing inequalities in how space is used, organized, and experienced. It emphasized the idea that spatial arrangement, such as design of cities, access to infrastructure, or land use policies, directly impinging and on the social justice and human well-being. Spatial justice is thus strongly anchored in critical social science and must consequently be understood as a theory for action. Spatial justice can be seen as a both outcomes and processes. In the broad set sense, spatial justice refers to an intentional and focused emphasis on the spatial or geographical aspects of justice and injustice. The political organization of space is a particularly powerful source of spatial justice, such as gerrymandering of electoral districts, the reddling of urban investment, and the effects of exclusionary zoning to territorial apartheid, institutionalized residential segregation, and the creations of the other core periphery spatial structure of privilege from the local to the global scale. The example of spatial injustice may constitute, among other localities, to leprosy infected people, environmental racism, low caste quarter in village and such neighborhood in the towns, slums and poor settlement in the city, displacement of original disadvantaged inhabitants and occupations and creations of new space by other powerful groups in the industrial cities like Ranchi, Raulkela, Durgapur, etc. Mining areas and other development project area, the process of displacement and land alienations in tribal area, landowners becoming servant. Next ହେଲା ତମର the urban context ରେ social justice and the city. Social justice and the city. According to Harvey, he argued that with compelling evidence that cities are fertile sites of intense social, economic, and political inequality, endangered by capitalist dynamics that prioritize profit over human needs. This leads to spatial and social inequalities with wealth concentrated in certain areas while other languish in poverty and neglect. Urban planning and development are aligned with capital accumulation, serving elite interests rather than the needs of the majority. Transport may also be an example, which is most elite centric at present, increasing air traffic and elite trains, but not expanding the general coaches with basic facility. He further held the view that social justice in cities cannot be separated from spatial justice. The distributions of resources, services, and infrastructures across urban areas reflects and reproduces social inequalities. Marginalized communities such as the slum dwellers, the blacks, and other such groups often reside in areas with limited access to the essential services like education, healthcare, and transport. The urban context, right to the city, according to Henri Lefebvre, a French philosopher and sociologist first, articulated in 1968 the concept of right to the city. David Harvey has been the most active proponent of this idea that calls for resisting spatial inequalities in the city. Harvey advocates for collective participation in spacing urban environments while pointing out the unseen hands of state power and the politics of space in creating space that frequently reinforce social hierarchies and inequalities by favoring some groups and excluding others. Lefebvre argued for more equitable urban development, promoting social inclusions, democratic governance, and environmental sustainability as the new element in the configuration of the city. For Lefebvre, the right to the city can be attained through constant struggle to achieve just space by promoting self-management and appropriations of public space. Right to city also included right to difference or urban democracy, implying coexistence and the exchange of different vision in the urban environment and institutionalizing the right to the city. Next ହେଲା ତମର emancipatory role of the third space. According to Harvey and Lefebvre, who both forcefully brought the notion of spatial justice and right to the city as deeply embedded in space. Space ceased to be viewed merely as the container of things and was conceptualized as wielding enormous power not only economically but also politically. The third space concept by Soja was an extension of Henry Lefebvre's right to the city. To Soja, the third space is nothing but a socially produced space, unlike the first, which refers to the real world, the urban built from the physical building that can be mapped and seen, and the second space, which is the imagined representational space, a product of perception. perceptions. Then the third space combines the first space and second space to produce a hybrid space, a fully lived space, and a simultaneously real and imaginate, actual and virtual locus of structure, individuality, and collective experience and agency. Third space is hybrid in the sense that it is both real and imagined, the lived space and the way that people actually live in and experience space. For example, of third space include among other coffee shops, park, library, churches, community centers, pubs, bar, gyms, and health clubs, theater and opera house, shopping mall, etc. It is the third space where the people can truly strive for emancipation and liberty from the tyranny of the power inherent in spatial structures that per- perpetuate injustice. One may, in this context, cite the example of India coffee house frequented by freedom fighters, which transformed into vibrant third space for Indian liberation movement by serving as hub for intellectual discussions, political debates, and the exchange of revolutionary ideas. Third space serve as a site of resistance where the marginalized and the oppressed can contest dominant narratives and power structures that perpetuate spatial injustice, highlighting the importance of informal space. The third space are space for counter narratives in the sense that they allow for the articulation or alternatives that have the potential to challenge exclusionary practices such as gentrifications, unequal access, even denial of access to public space or displacement. Some other example of the third space may also include reclaiming marginalized urban space through grassroots activism, transforming unused public space into community hubs and hybrid governance models that recognize informal settlement as a part of urban fabric. The next one is your principle and criteria for attaining social justice. What are the principle and criteria for attaining social justice? In achieving spatial justice, David Harvey proposes two principles initially proposed by roles that merge from basic ingredients to attain social justice. These are first one is equal right to a fully adequate scheme of equal basic rights and liberties, which is compatible with a similar scheme for all. Second is your social and economic inequalities must satisfy equal opportunities and must be to the greatest benefit of the least advantaged member of the society. These three basic criteria are essential ground on which territorial social justice must be met. The distributions of income must satisfy the most basic requirement. Interterritorial multiplier effects can be maximized by the allocations of resources to a territory and extra resources allotted to the territory enable them to overcome unique challenges resulting from difficult and physical problems. According to David Harvey, fulfillment of needs is the most important criterion in territorial distributive justice. The other two criteria are contributions to the common good and merit. The criterions of need understandably include such basic requirements as food, housing, health and healthcare, education, social and environmental services, consumer goods, recreational opportunities, neighborhood amenities and transport facilities. Contributions to the common good is determined by how the allocations of resources to a territory may affect the conditions of another. The third criterion of merit is not based on excellence as is commonly understood, but to meet certain geographical or environmental difficulties arising out of physical or social setting of the territory, such as those affected by earthquake, flood, or persistent drought condition necessitating extra allocation to tide over such problems. ସରିଲା ଏଟା ବ୍ଲକ 3 ସରିଲା କାଲି ପଢେଇବି ବ୍ଲକ 4 chapter unit 13 14 15 16
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ।
ହଁ 13 14 କାଲି ମୁଁ ତମର କ୍ଲାସ 2ଟା ବେଳେ ନେବି 2:30 କାଲି କ୍ଲାସ କାଲି एक्चुअली ଛୁଟି ଥିଲା ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଛୁଟି ଥିଲା ତ ମତେ କିଛି ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ହେଇନଥାନ୍ତା 4ଟା ବେଳେ କ୍ଲାସ ନେବା କିନ୍ତୁ ଛୁଟି
ଓକେ
କ୍ୟାନସଲ ହେଇଗଲା କାଲି କାଲି ପଞ୍ଚାୟती ରାଜ ପାଇଁ ଛୁଟି କ୍ୟାନସଲ ହେଇଯାଇଛି ନା ତ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ହଁ କାଲି କ୍ୟାନସଲ ହେଇଯାଇଛି ନହେଲେ ମୁଁ 4ଟାରେ ନେଇଥାନ୍ତି ଆଉ ଯେହେତୁ କ୍ଲାसेସ୍ ହଁ ହଁ ଏପ୍ରିଲ 24ରେ
24ରେ
ଦିଆହବ ତ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ କାଲି ମୁଁ 2:30ରେ କ୍ଲାସ ନେବି 2:30 ରୁ 4:30 ହେଲା କାଲି ମୁଁ 2:30 ରୁ 4:30 କ୍ଲାସ ନେବି ଲିଙ୍କ ଟା ପଠେଇଦେବେ ସାର୍ କାଲି ଲାଷ୍ଟ यूनिट ଲାଷ୍ଟ ବ୍ଲକ ଅଛି ବ୍ଲକ 4 ଟା କାଲି ପଢେଇକି ସାରିଦେବି ହେଲା
ନା
ହଁ କୁହ ହ୍ୟାଲୋ
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଲିଙ୍କଟା ସେମ୍ ତ
ହଁ ହଁ ସେମ୍ ତମକୁ ମେଲ ବି ଯାଉଥିବ ନା ଟାଇମିଂ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ହେଲେ
ଆସିଥିଲା
ହୁଁ କାଲି ବି ଆସିବ କହିଦେଲେ କାଲି 2:30 ରୁ 4:30 ନେବି ଆଉ ହଉ ଆଉ କାହାର କଣ ଡାଉଟ ଅଛି କି ଆଉ କାହାର କଣ ଡାଉଟ ଅଛି ଶ୍ରୀ ଆଉ ଦେବୀ ବିଶ୍ୱମ୍ବର
ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ସେଟା ଯୋଉ ରହିଗଲା ଆଉ ଯୋଉ ବ୍ଲକ 1 ଯୋଉଟା ଟିକେ ରହିଥିଲା
ସେଟା
ସେଇଟା
ହଁ
ଯଦି
ଲରେନ୍ସ ପୁରମଟା କାଲି କରେଇଦେବି
ଆଜ୍ଞା
କାହିଁକି କି 2 ଘଣ୍ଟା ଭିତରେ 4ଟା ୟୁନିଟ ତାକୁ ପଢେଇବା ବହୁତ ଡିଫିକଲ୍ଟ
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ
ବହୁତ ଡିଫିକଲ୍ଟ 4ଟା ୟୁନିଟ 2 ଘଣ୍ଟାରେ 2ଟା ୟୁନିଟ ହିଁ ମ୍ୟାକ୍ସିମମ୍ ମାନେ टाणी ଟୁଣା କରିକି ହେଇପାରିବ 4ଟା ବହୁତ ପାଥେଟିକ ହେଇଯାଉଛି
ବହୁତ
ମାନେ କଣ କହିଲ ମୁଁ ଖାଲି ଟଚ କରି କରି ଯାଉଛି ଯୋଉ ଯଦି ଏକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ତ ଏମିତି କହିବାକୁ ଗଲେ 2 ଘଣ୍ଟାରେ ଗୋଟେ ୟୁନିଟ କି 2ଟା ୟୁନିଟ ହିଁ ଠିକ 4ଟା ୟୁନିଟ ବହୁତ ଡିଫିକଲ୍ଟ ହେଇଯାଉଛି 4ଟା ବ୍ଲକ ତଣ୍ଟି ହେରିକା ଶୁଖି ଯାଉଛି ମାନେ କହି କହି ଷ୍ଟପ୍ ବି ମାନେ ଟିକେ ଭଲସେ ବୁଝେଇକି ସେଇ ୱେରେ ହେଇ ହିଁ ପାରୁନି
ନା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ଆପଣ ତ ପୁରା କଣ୍ଟିନ୍ୟू କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଏତେ ସମୟ।
ହଁ ମତେ ମୋର ପୁରା ପାଟି ତଣ୍ଟି ପୁରା ଶୁଖିଗଲାଣି। ମୁଁ ଖାଲି ପାଣି ପିଉଛି। ମତେ ମାନେ ପୁରା ମାନେ ଇଏ ଶୁଖିଗଲାଣି ମତେ କେମିତି କେମିତି ଲାଗୁଛି। କିନ୍ତୁ ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଲି ନା ନ ପଢେଇଲେ ସରିବ ବି ନାହିଁ ସବୁ ଯାକ କଭର କରିବି ହବନି। ଚାରିଟା ଯାକ ନା
ଏଇଟା ବି ମ୍ୟାଡାମ
ତ
ଏସେ ଟାଇପ ର ବି ବହୁତ ଅଛି ନା ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ସେଥିପାଇଁ
ହଁ
ବେଶୀ କହିବା ପାଇଁ ପଡୁଛି।
ହୁଁ ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିକାଲରେ କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ହେଉନଥିଲା। ବଟ୍ ଏଇଟାର ଥିଓରି ପେପର ଟା ନା ତ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ପଢେଇବାକୁ ପଡୁଛି ନା ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ନ ପଢେଇଲେ ଜାଣି ହବନି ତ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ବହୁତ ଅଛି ଥିଓରି।
ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ଏଥରଟା ଯୋଉ ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ ଅଛି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିକାଲ ଇଏଟା ସେଇଟା ବି ଆପଣ ନେବେନି କିଛି?
କୋଉଟାର ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ ଅଛି?
ଏଇ ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିକାଲ ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି ଆମର ରିମୋଟ ସେନ୍ସିଂ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ।
ହଁ ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ ତ ଅଛି ଯେ କଣ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ ବୋଧେ ହବନି କି କଣ କେଜାଣି କଣ କହୁଥିଲେ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ କେତେ ମାର୍କ ଅଛି ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି।
ଅଛି ଗୋଟେ ପେପରଟା ଅଛି
କେଜାଣି
ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ। ଯେ
ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ
ଆପଣଙ୍କ
ମାନେ
କଣ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଇୟର ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଇୟର ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ଆମର ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ କିଛି ବି ଆଉ ଦେଇନାହାନ୍ତି ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିକାଲ?
ହଁ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଇୟର ର ନା ଏବେ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଇୟର ର ତ ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିକାଲ ଆମେ ତ କିଛି ମୁଁ ତ ପାଇନି ଏବେ ତ ଥିଓରି କ୍ଲାसेସ୍ ଚାଲିଛି ସବୁ।
ହଁ ଥିଓରି ଏବେ ଚାଲିଛି।
ପ୍ରାକ୍ଟିକାଲ ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ ତ ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ ମାନେ ତମକୁ ଫିଲ୍ଡ ଯିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ତୁ 3-4 ଡେଜ ର କୋଉଠି ଯିବାକୁ ପଡେ ସେଇଟା କଣ ଆଗରୁ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ଇଗ୍ନୋର କଣ ସେଟअପ୍। ଯେମିତି ଆମର ଯେମିତି ୟୁନିଭରସିଟିରେ ଆମେ 5-6 ଡେଜ ର ଗୋଟେ ଯାଉ ଫିଲ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭେ। ହେଲା ସେଟା ଆମ ସ୍କୁଲ କଲେଜ ବେଳୁ ମୁଁ ବି କଲେଜରେ ପଢିକି ଯାଇଥିଲି ଏବେ ବି ଏଠି ବି ଆମ ପିଲା ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି ୟୁନିଭରସିଟିରେ। ତ ଏଠି କଣ ଇଗ୍ନୋର କଣ ସେମାନେ କରିବେ କି ନ କରିବେ କି କୋଉଠି କଣ ସେଟା ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ମତେ ଆଇଡିଆ ନାହିଁ।
ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଆମର ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଆଡମିସନ କୁ ଆମେ କିଛି ବି ଜାଣିପାରୁନୁ। ଆଉ ସେପଟୁ ବି କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟ ବି ଏତେ ହେଇପାରୁନି ସେମାନଙ୍କ ସହିତ ମ୍ୟାଟେରିଆଲ ବି ଠିକ ସେ ଦଉନାହାନ୍ତି ଖାଲି ଯାହା ଏବେ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ଆମର ଓସେନୋଗ୍ରାଫି ପଣ୍ଡା ସାରଙ୍କର ମୁଣ୍ଡା ସାରଙ୍କର ସେଇଟା ସବୁ ମଟେରିଆଲ ଦିଟା ବ୍ଲକ ଅପଲୋଡ ହେଇଛି। ଆଉ ଦିଟା ଅପଲୋଡ ହେଇନି। ସାର୍ କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ ଦିଟା ଏମତି ଡିସକସନ ଟିକେ କରିଦେଇଥିଲେ ଓସେନୋଗ୍ରାଫିର। ଆପଣଙ୍କର ସବୁ
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ମେଟେରିଆଲ ହେଇଯାଇଛି ଜିଆଇଏସ ର କିନ୍ତୁ ମେଟେରିଆଲ ଅପଲୋଡ ହେଇନି।
ଟୋଟାଲି ହେଇନି?
ନା ନା ଆମ କିନ୍ତୁ ସାର୍ କିନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟେ ପଢଉଥିଲେ ତାପସ ସାର୍ ସେ କୋଉଟାରୁ ପଢଉଥିଲେ କେଜାଣି? କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମର ଏଥିରେ ଅପଲୋଡ ହେଇନି ଶୋ କରୁନି।
କିନ୍ତୁ
ଏମିତି
ଇଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡକ୍ସନ ଯୋଉଟା କି ପରଦିନ ପଢିବେ ଜୟନ୍ତ ସାର୍ ବି ପଢେଇବେ ନା? ତାର ବି ବୋଧେ ନାହିଁ ବୋଧେ?
ନାଇଁ ମ୍ୟାମ ତାର ବି ନାହିଁ କେଜାଣି ଏବେ ଯଦି ଅପଲୋଡ କରିବେ କରିବେ କାହିଁ ନାହିଁ ତାର।
ସାର୍ ପଚାରୁଥିଲେ ମେଟେରିଆଲ କଥା ଯେ ମୁଁ କହିଲି ମୁଁ କହିପାରିବି ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପଡିବ।
ନାଇଁ ମ୍ୟାଟେରିଆଲ ପାଇଁ ବହୁତ ହଇରାଣ ତାପରେ ଏବେ ତ ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଇୟର ର ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ବହି ଆସୁଛି ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ବ୍ଲକ ବି ଆସୁଛି। ଆଉ ଏକ୍ଜାମ
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ସାରିଲାଣି।
ହୁଁ ହୁଁ।
ଆପଣଙ୍କର ସବୁ ହେଇଯାଇଛି। ଆଉ ଆମର ପଣ୍ଡା ସାର୍ ବି ସେ ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ଦିଟା ବ୍ଲଗ ଇଏ କଲେ ଆଉ ବାକି ନିଜେ ସେୟାର କରିକି ପଢେଇ ଦେଲେ କ୍ଲାସ ନେଇଗଲେ ଆଉ କେତେଟା କହିଦେଲେ ଯେ ତମମାନେ କରିବ ଏମିତି କହିଲେ।
ଆଚ୍ଛା ହଉ ଠିକ ଅଛି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ।
ଠିକ ଅଛି ଦେଖିବା ଆଉ ହଉ ଚାଲ ରଖୁଛି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ ନମସ୍କାର।
କାଲି 2:30 ମେଲ ଆସିବ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମ୍ୟାଡ଼ାମ।
ହୁଁ।